Welcome to Mamatoosa, Conversations with a Midwife. I'm your host, Atoosa Benji. A quick note before today's episode. This show talks about birth, life, death, and all the complexities in between. My goal is always to share stories that leave you feeling empowered, but please know that some topics may be challenging or deeply moving. Also, while I'm an experienced midwife, I'm not your midwife, and the information on this podcast is not intended to be medical advice. Please consult your healthcare provider when considering what is best for you as an individual. Now, without further ado, I hope you enjoy the show. Welcome to the Mamatoosa podcast.
Thank you so much.
I'm so excited to have you. Jen Stith is my guest today. Thank you for your time. I know you're busy. You have kids. You have a life. It's so gracious of you to make time for me. And your story is incredible. Jen is a mother and a writer and a self-proclaimed worrier, which we'll get into. And also in transition, right? You had your second baby, yes. and deciding which way you want to give your attention. Yep. And I'm sure being pulled in all sorts of directions, yes. as we are as busy moms in LA.
Yes.
Welcome to the Mamatoosa podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I met Jen, who gracefully responded to a request on Instagram, I think. My daughter had actually tried to contact her for work through LinkedIn and then through your past work.
I'm so
And then
bad.
came across your blog. It was like a whole thing. And then she literally sent screenshots of your blog. And she was like, Mom, you have to look at this woman's story. And so one night I grabbed a cup of tea and I sat on my couch, and I get chills thinking about your writing.
The highest compliment.
Your writing is incredible. I actually said to her before the mic and the camera went on that your writing is flawless. And I felt every emotion that you were feeling, not only as a mother, but as a birth worker, as a midwife, as a doula. I felt it all. And I know you had a very difficult experience, a very unique experience, and also not unique in that so many people struggle. So many people have hard births. Yeah. So many people struggle in the postpartum period. And I really want to hear, and I want my viewers to hear, and I want us to sort of brainstorm solutions, but also honor and hold space for that. For that experience that you had. Tell me about your first pregnancy.
Okay, actually, my first pregnancy was really easy. We got pregnant right away, which I know is the biggest blessing right now, especially. And my pregnancy was easy. I channeled my mother, who's very positive and laid back and not worried about everything all at once. Mm-hmm. I really seriously channeled my mother to stay in a good place during this pregnancy. And so it was good. It was easy. I did not get morning sickness, which I'm so grateful for. I feel blessed for the the entirety of that process.
And you were with an obstetrician, planned birth at a hospital.
Yes.
So what happened the day you went into labor?
So I woke up one morning and my water broke. This would have been May 8th of 2020. So it was peak, like they don't have masks. They don't have enough masks at the hospitals. Like I was told to prepare to go through this birth without my husband, without anybody. They said they just wouldn't know until, the day came really. They did allow him to come in with me, but it was funny. We showed up at Cedars. They gave us each a disposable mask, and then they literally sprayed us down like we were roaches, just with some antibacterial. So I have no idea what it was.
Like getting deloused.
But they sprayed us all over, and then they let us in. And
good times.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, great start to this day. But they took us into triage, mm-hmm. and nothing was really happening. My water had broken though, so they were like, we're going to keep you here. Well, not too much longer later, they started having the discussion with me about Pitocin. Now, we had a doula who I think you might know. Her name's Carson Meyer. We had Carson. It was a really hard time to have a doula because she couldn't really perform her duties like in person like she normally would have.
Virtual.
But we had learned a lot from her. And so I knew I didn't want to launch into Pitocin right away. So I said, no. And this went on for hours. And probably 5 or 6 hours in, they were sort of like, all right, we got to get things moving. So I said, okay. And I didn't realize what was going to happen. And all of a sudden I start feeling these contractions and they're getting more and more like violent. I can't think of a different word. And I say, I need an epidural now. And they said, well, the anesthesiologist is in a C-section. So
You have to wait.
Yep. And that is, I tell every pregnant woman I know who is planning on having a hospital birth with an epidural, ask for it before you think you need it.
Yeah.
Because by the time I got that epidural, I was in excruciating pain. And I always say it's like getting hit by a truck and struck by lightning at the same time. Like that's what it felt like to me.
Yeah.
So, okay, but then we have the epidural and we have the Pitocin. I think I officially moved into this beautiful room with this beautiful view
Of the
out.
Hollywood Hills. Yes.
And we were like, this is perfect. We need a birth in this beautiful room.
And it sounds like your body responded to the Pitocin pretty fast.
Yes, it did. And I was actually talking to my husband this morning because I couldn't remember the two things that happened after that. Was one, I was shaking so hard. I could not hold it together. And I think it might have been the epidural that did that. And then, it wasn't progressing enough and it was getting later into the night. So my husband went to grab dinner and come right back. And when he left, they'd given me some like cherry Italian ice.
Yeah.
And I'm in this room alone and all of a sudden I just start throwing up all of it, a lot. But I can't move from the waist down. I'm kind of stuck because of the epidural. And I'm hitting, because it's not stopping, so I'm hitting the call button for the nurses. It's almost as if there was like a skeleton crew there because it was COVID. Because no one came in for a minute. My husband came in and he found me, and this went on for a while. I was sick for a while, but then I got better. Again, things were not progressing enough, so my doctor came in, who I love my OBGYN. She was just like the calm in the storm the entire time. She like carried me through this pregnancy. She's fantastic. But she came in and said, let's give her a break. Turn it off. Turn it off. Let her try and sleep. She's going to need it. And so they turned the Pitocin off. And I did not sleep because I was so scared I was just scared. I didn't know what was going to happen. And I wrote in my writing Instagram about a nurse who came in and let me just spill all of my anxieties in my entire life to her. And she stayed with me at my bedside for hours.
I was so touched by that. I was so touched by that writing, that she would sit next to you and listen to you just talk in this state of not being able to sleep, having just vomited, going through crazy contractions, and now sort of not really in labor because your contractions have kind of stopped, but being numb, which is a very odd feeling. And interestingly, a few days ago, I had a labor and delivery nurse on the podcast, and she said one of the beautiful things about COVID, even though things were very, very hard on so many levels, she said what she loved most was that she could actually give one-on-one care to her clients, to her patients, because they weren't taking care of as many people. They didn't want nurses going in and out of multiple rooms and possibly transferring germs. So you would have one client who you took care of for the duration. She said, I loved that time partly for that reason, because I got to be by the bedside instead of coming and going and just doing the things that I do as a nurse and I'm responsible for. I got to know my client, which nurses are now not able to do the same way they did.
We got attached to a handful of them.
Aww.
I mean, Cedars-Sinai nurses are like, they're heroes, they're lifesavers. I don't know how you work in labor and delivery. I don't know how you work in the NICU. I think they're incredible, it's
incredible work.
I totally agree. But yeah, this woman was so gracious. She just sat up with me and let me talk to her while my husband slept.
Yeah.
So we get to the next morning.
Yeah.
I think they turn the Pitocin back on. Whatever happens, some of this is like muddy for me, some of this part, but I go into labor and
back into labor.
I go I go into, I guess, more, I don't know, active
more
labor.
Of an active labor, yeah.
And at some point, I don't know when, we realize that the baby is transverse, which I had never heard of before. So I'm thinking the doctor will fix it. We'll do something. I really wanted to have a natural birth. I really didn't want a C-section. I don't know why. I think it's less the fear of it, more that what I pictured in my mind.
Yeah.
Was that I'd go in and I'd have a natural birth.
That was your vision.
And that was it. And then we'd go home.
Yeah.
So I pushed for, it's either 3 or 4 hours. And let me tell you, the doctor was trying to turn the baby. I got in every position imaginable. I did whatever she said. We tried everything. And the baby's vitals sort of started to drop a bit. And I was so just tired. I had nothing left to give after that point. And my doctor finally took her gloves off and said, we need to go now into a C-section. And I think I probably would have said, let's do it sooner, but I didn't. I was so in it and I was so overstimulated and stressed out that I didn't understand what was actually going on. So she finally says, like, we need to go now. And what's crazy is I've never seen like a group of people mobilize faster than at Cedars when she said it's time to go into a C-section. Like, all these people were in and out, and within a couple minutes I was in the operating room.
This is a quote from your blog. My doctor tried for hours to turn her while I breathlessly pushed because I didn't want to give up. The whole experience felt helpless and animalistic. I can barely recall them to memory now, but the positions I find myself in were some I never in my life I imagined I would ever agree to get into, try to get this baby out. I'm an original never nude who suddenly found myself on all fours. It has been a memory redredging of much avoidance. So much of what happened next is a blur, because almost all of it was a nightmare. So I read this, and as a birth worker, I'm getting goosebumps now, just picturing you in that state. And I can imagine the blur, because one you're in labor land, which is a whole hormonal trip anyway, right? Then you're on an epidural. The epidural and the Pitocin together are not making you feel good. There's something about them together that's not really agreeing with your constitution. But I can imagine you on all fours and on your side and hands inside of you and trying to turn. All these things are happening. And you talk about the stark contrast of the beautifully lit room across from the hills at Cedars going into the cold, bright fluorescent lights of the OR.
Oh yeah, couldn't have been different. My husband brought it up the other day, like how beautiful that first room was and how like just
it's so
stark and like sterile and scary, that intimidating that room is.
Yeah. And people moving fast, essentially, which to your body feels like something really bad must be happening right now if these people are moving so quickly.
Right, exactly. And I am so dead tired. I honestly had nothing. I did not have anything left at that point.
You talk about wanting two things more than anything: water and sleep. And neither would have been accessible to you for hours.
Yes, they just straight up said no to water. And I was trying to fall asleep during the C-section. I was just like, if I can close my eyes for 30 seconds, I will do it. But, this part is somewhat of a blur. But it seemed to me that everything was normal until all of a sudden they drop the curtain, the protective curtain, so I can't see what's going on. Yeah, they drop one of them so I can see a flash of a baby. They put it up right away. And the biggest thing after that, and this for me is the worst part of this entire situation, I know my baby's out and it is silent. You could hear a pin drop in that room. Like, it's completely silent. And I immediately realized there's something wrong, because you're supposed to hear a crying baby, right? And I couldn't see what was going on, but my husband could, and they took her and they kind of rushed to a corner of the room. I think it almost feels like they were trying to protect him in a way too, from seeing everything. But he walked over because they allowed him to, and he's scarred by how they weren't treating her rough, but we think we're brand new parents. We think this baby's like made of glass, right? So they're being pretty rough on her, trying to get her to breathe,
resuscitate her.
Yes,
and it starts. So the steps of stimulation. So babies come out, and some of them cry right away. Some of them even cry as soon as their head comes out and there's no body out, which is a fascinating thing to see. Half a body still in the body, and then the head out, and the baby's crying. Sometimes they come out and it takes them like 30 seconds to a minute to just sort of figure things out. And sometimes they come out and you wait longer, and you're like, all right, baby, I'm sorry, we gotta do some moves. But typically the first step is stimulation, and the stimulation is it can be like, come on, it's flicking of the bottom of the feet and giving them a very rigorous rub. And I can imagine, as a new parent, you're on one side of the room and he's at the warmer. Your baby's been separated. I'm sure he's got a story to tell too.
He does, and he really is. We both had a really hard time for months afterwards, because what happened with him was he sees them trying to get the baby to breathe, but he turns around to walk back to me, and I was still open on the table. And I've never asked him for details about what that was like, because I don't think I want to know. I don't want to picture myself that way, and it just sounds like an awful thing for him to.
It's like sci-fi, right?
Yes, to have experienced. And so they tell us they're taking her to the NICU. And they say to my husband, you can come with us, you can stay here. I'm like, go with the baby. So he goes with the baby, but they get to the NICU and they won't let him in. So he tries to come back to the OR, but he's not allowed back in the OR.
In there either,
So he doesn't know, neither of us know if she's okay, what's going on with her. He doesn't
know if you're okay.
He doesn't know if I'm okay.
Wow.
And they put him alone in a recovery room. And on top of it, we had alerted the masses that I was in labor. So we had his family, my family, all of our friends, my mom's huge extended family. Like, everyone's waiting to hear the good news that this baby's been born. So he was so desperate at that moment to have someone to talk to that he called his mom and my mom, I think, and one of his friends, one of my friends, just to say, this is what's going on.
Right.
And he felt so terrible making those calls. And I felt so terrible too, that we had to say that it was not good, like it wasn't good. Yeah, he had a rough few hours, and they put me back together eventually and put me in a room with him. And then we got moved into the postpartum suite. Mm-hmm. It was tiny, but
it's 10 by 10.
Yeah, it was tiny. Yeah, but
as beautiful as the L&D rooms are, the postpartum rooms leave a little bit.
Yeah, well, I was like, oh, okay.
Is this the closet of the room I'm supposed to be?
So we get in there, and the thing that's so hard is all you want is for someone to tell you that your baby's going to be okay, and they couldn't tell us in the OR. They couldn't tell us. They just kept saying, we're working on her. Eventually they came and, she's stable. And the updates started to get progressively a little bit better. But it was like, her vitals were kind of not steady. And all of these things have to get brought to a normal level before they'll let her out.
To a milestone before she can leave. Yep.
Yeah.
Which is a difficult milestone to get to for a baby that's gone through so much trauma. Those milestones are actually milestones for healthy, normal newborns who reach those milestones because they have usually uncomplicated births and they get there. But now you have a baby who's compromised and we're trying to get them to those milestones. So you're behind the game, right?
Yes. Yeah. We're starting behind the game. And I was in terrible shape. They couldn't even get me off of my bed into a wheelchair to go see her. So I had her on May 9th in the morning. I didn't even see her till the next day, till the next afternoon, which happened to be Mother's Day.
And you had a hemorrhage after the C-section.
I never really got the details of what happened, but the way they put it was, you lost a lot of blood. We'd like to do a blood transfusion. Do we have your permission to do that? And I got freaked out by that. So I said, can I just try these like giant iron pills they were giving me? I said, can we just try that for like 1 or 2 more days? If it doesn't work, I'll do it.
Right. So you clearly must have lost, because a postpartum hemorrhage is defined as more than 500 cc's of blood, which is like, if you think about 240 milliliters, which is your typical water bottle, double that is how much and more you need to lose blood. Now, we know that C-sections could cause an increase in bleeding. We also know that you pushed for a really long time, and she was in a weird position. Yep. And your body wasn't liking the labor. So the labor was already telling us that something about this picture is not fully lining up.
Yeah.
So in order for them to have even bringing out the words blood transfusion, your hemoglobin, which is that oxygen carrying molecule on your red blood cell, must have been super, super low.
Yes.
Were you able to bring it up with the iron?
Yes.
Nice. Okay.
I was.
So you avoided the transfusion?
Yes, I did. I would have done it if I needed to, but I just wanted to try and see if we could avoid it. And so
you must have felt like crap.
Oh, it was terrible. I had a catheter. I had those things that are squeezing your legs. I was in pain and I couldn't move. And, they want you at a certain point to get up and start moving. And it's like after a C-section, it hurts. And you don't to stand up and to walk, to go to the bathroom. Everything was like a production. But I did get to go the next day and see Lennon is her name, my daughter.
Beautiful name.
Thank you. And that is almost like another thing that traumatized me because I didn't know what to expect, but I go into the NICU and there's just wires up her nose, down her throat, like
IVs on little babies.
Tape everywhere.
It's hard.
It was like her mouth had something and it was taped around. I felt so bad. It was so hard to see her like that. I felt so bad that she was in there and we were not,
Were you able to hold her?
Not the first time I went in. Oh. I was able to put my hand through. Yeah. And she did grab my hand.
Oh.
But it was the next day, I think, that I got to actually hold her to my chest, and they only would let either me or my husband in. So it was just one of us with her. And, we kind of just went back and forth from the NICU as much as we could. And I didn't feel great. We ended up being there for a total of 5 days. And this is a funny side story. My husband, also an idealist in this situation, he showed up to the hospital when we went to give birth, and all he had was the clothes on his back and a hoodie in case he got cold. Because he's thinking we're leaving tomorrow.
Right.
I was more prepared because I'm an over-prepared person, but you got to do your own stuff. So he had nothing. But
was this at the time when they wouldn't let you leave and come back?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So from the birth to 5 days later, he was essentially without a lot of resources.
What they did let us do is a friend of his was able to get into our house, grab some clothes for him. Mike, my husband, would have to run downstairs to where they let you in. His friend could pass him the clothes, doors shut, and that's it.
That was it.
So that's how he got.
Times.
That's how he got his clothes.
Wow.
Yeah, and he brought us a couple things, but yeah, there was really not much we could do. Yeah, that was kind of funny, but she eventually was okay. You know, they brought her to us on, I think, the third day, and then came the terror of like swaddling, and we didn't know how to put on a diaper. Like, we were really
new at it.
Yes, just big rookies.
Did they know what was wrong with her? Why did she go to the NICU?
They said she had fluid
in her lungs.
Yeah.
It's not uncommon for babies who are not born via vaginal canal to have fluid, because part of the mechanism of the vaginal canal is that the vaginal canal is really narrow. So as it squeezes the baby down, it actually squeezes the lung fluid out of the babies. So the babies born by C-section often will have a neonatal resuscitation team, pediatric team in the room, just because they often have a little bit more trouble breathing, because they can not be able to rid themselves of that fluid the same way vaginal babies can.
And it's so funny you said that, because I only recently learned that my second child was a planned C-section.
Yeah.
She also had to go to the NICU, but she was crying. She was so I knew she was okay, but same thing. She had fluid in her lungs, and I have a wonderful psychiatrist who does pregnancy and postpartum.
Wow.
Like, that's his specialty. He's amazing. His name's Dr. Sprago, Merrill Sprago. He's amazing.
Amazing.
But Dr. Sprago explained to me what you just said, because I didn't know why it had happened twice. And when it happened with Lennon, I think I mentioned to you, I don't know if it was a resident doctor, but someone came when I was still on the operating table and she'd been taken away. And they kind of whispered something that intimated that I had done something that made her turn into this position, or that it was somehow my fault. So I carried that, and I always sort of thought, you know, maybe it was me, maybe it was something I did. So when he explained the squeezing out of the fluid,
of it, it's nothing you did.
And it was 2.5 years later that I got that explanation.
I'm sorry. In the most vulnerable time where plan A has become plan B, has become plan C, and you have a baby in the NICU, and in our most vulnerable time where we're already questioning ourselves, for someone to say you did something wrong. I remember a woman called me and said, you know, in our childbirth class, we had talked about, I was the teacher, we had talked about, you don't have to bathe a baby as soon as on first day. You don't have to bathe them. You can wait till you go home. You can you don't have to do that.
Yep.
And her baby ended up in the NICU, and some person at the hospital told her, it's your fault that the baby ended up at the NICU, because when we give them a bath, they cry and they get the fluid out. And because you didn't let us bathe your baby, the baby didn't cry as much as a baby who gets a bath. And that's why your baby's in the NICU. She carried that for years. And she actually called me. She's like, you told us that babies don't need to be bathed on the same day, and my baby ended in the NICU. And is that true? And I was like, one has nothing to do with the other. Like, plenty of babies can end up in the NICU, and one has nothing to do with the other. Interestingly, about a year after she gave birth, it actually became a guideline that you don't have to bathe babies.
Yep.
On that first day.
Oh, I didn't with either of mine.
Right. You're so vulnerable, and so you're more likely to take that on as a new mom. Like, wait, my body that carried this baby, I took an action to now harm my baby?
Right.
It's devastating.
It is. And you feel, after that doctor said that to me, I went into late night into the early morning. It messed with my head so much that I was literally thinking, I don't want to meet this baby. I want to go home. I don't want to do this anymore. Like, it made me feel like I needed to detach in some
disconnect.
way. Yeah. We had a rough go, and it didn't end when we left the hospital either.
If you like Mamatoosa, check out Actually Useful, a show about why the tech world is broken and what we can do to fix it. Each episode, hosts Ariel and AJ talk to some of the smartest people in tech who are trying to build a better internet. If you're angry at Uber for jacking up prices, can't believe Netflix kicked you off your ex's account, or don't understand why tech CEOs can act like shadow politicians, Actually Useful is the show for you. My favorite is their episode on AI. I learned a lot about the climate cost of ChatGPT and how this AI craze is more of a hype trend than a real advancement in tech. It's a big topic, so I appreciate the team for breaking it down for their listeners. Check it out every other Thursday, wherever you listen. And again, it's heat of COVID now.
Yes.
It's spring of 2020.
Yes. So thankfully, my mother-in-law is local, Orange County. And she said she hadn't left her house in months. She said, I'm coming to help you with this baby. And thank God for that, because we did not know what we were doing. So she was there. I felt like I was doing okay breastfeeding. Like I was kind of getting it. And the sort of funny thing about what happened next was I just wanted a little extra confidence, just a little, just
a little boost.
Just to know I was doing it right and to like really master it and just to know I've got this down.
I did that actually with my lactation consultant. I made an appointment with my newborn with a list of questions and essentially asked her the questions and answered them myself. I was like, so la, because of this, right? And she was like, right. Next question. I went through 30 questions and I left her office. And I felt so much better. That's all I needed.
That's what I think I was looking for.
Really, all I needed.
Instead, she was lovely. She was young. She came over. And what really got in my head was she was a NICU nurse. So I thought she must know.
Yeah.
She's a professional.
Yeah.
She must know. So I sort of at first took everything she said as truth. And we got into a discussion of formula. And she said verbatim, that formula is poison, like poison to your baby. You cannot give your baby formula. It's poison. She told us that for the next 4 months, we should do nothing but breastfeed this baby. She said, don't see your friends, don't see your family, don't clean your house. Breastfeed this baby.
Wow.
On every third hour around the clock. And then it got even wilder because she said that me breastfeeding around the clock wasn't enough. She said that we had to have my husband get involved, and she did a demonstration on me of what he needed to do. She got behind me, and I don't know how to say this other than it felt like she started trying to like milk me like a cow, and it's humiliating.
Very invasive. It's very invasive.
It's so humiliating. I've just given birth. I feel like terrible about the way I look. I was so swollen. I couldn't bend my knees
from all the IV
for
from all
weeks.
The medication. Yeah.
I could not even bend my knees. That's how swollen I was. So
and don't forget, your body is trying to make up for all that blood loss.
Right.
So that already puts some strain on making milk, because your body has to make blood and make milk.
She told us that he had to also be involved in every feeding. So I thought, so wait, nobody's sleeping then? Then nobody, we're not.
No one ever sleeps.
No one's sleeping.
All you do is nurse. Yep.
All right, great.
Breastfeed and milk.
I finally said to her, do you have kids? She said, yes, I do. And they were like 9 and 5 or something. And I said, did you do nothing but breastfeed your kids every third hour for 4 months? And not use formula at all, ever? And she says, well, no, I did do those things, but I didn't have the education that I have now. And I said, how are your kids? She said, they're great. They're normal. They're, flourishing.
Wow, Jen.
And I was crying because it sounded like worse than prison to just be up around the clock trying to feed a baby.
Well, it's unnatural.
Right. So
it's like the solution was worse than your problem.
Yes, it was. She finally left.
Oof.
And I was crying, and my husband was just sort of like stunned. And we finally looked at each other and we were like, we're not doing that.
Nope. Good for you.
We're not doing that.
Yeah.
So we kind of just paid her to leave, essentially.
Yeah.
Here's $500.
Totally.
Don't ever come back.
Have a nice day. Yeah.
And I had to work really hard to get everything that she said out of my head again, because I thought, NICU nurse, she must know.
What a testament to your strength and your resilience and empowerment as a mother to be like, yeah, no, that's not for me. Thank you. Here's your money, and we're going to do it another way.
Well, I still tried to breastfeed.
Yeah.
I just didn't go for the, like, my baby might be brain dead if we miss a third hour feeding, you know, because that's what she said. If you miss one feeding, she said your baby could be mentally retarded. She even said that it could be the difference between maybe your baby getting into Harvard one day versus, you know, a community college or something.
Oh my God, stop
yes, she made that comparison, and we're just going, oh my God. So she left, but I
think my blood pressure's going up.
No,
Oof.
I mean, to say to two new parents these things.
Oh,
and
my
we
goodness.
were just already so petrified that we didn't know what we were doing. So she was really caused a lot of damage, but we did say, like, we're not going to have him milk me from behind.
Yeah, no.
And, you know, we're going to do our best, basically. And so what happened is Lennon ends up developing colic. And for people who don't know firsthand what it's like to experience colic, I don't think it's possible to comprehend how difficult it is.
But guess before you said the exact same words, right? The same exact, unless you've lived it.
Yeah.
You do not know what it's like to have a colicky baby.
Because I think you can imagine a baby crying all the time, but until you have a baby in your face crying all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Since I had a traumatic birth, I was in touch with Dr. Sprago, my psychiatrist, right away, and in therapy right away.
Yeah, thank God. Yeah.
So we had someone who was helping us through this, but she said, I don't care how much it costs, go down to Apple, buy noise canceling headphones, both of you. So we went and bought 2 pairs, and we would pass Lennon back and forth like every 15 minutes. And then one person would take a break. Anytime we laid her down to take a nap, cried the whole time. And she would cry because she was hungry. She'd cry all through breastfeeding, and she'd cry after. So we could not figure out what was going on, but it was miserable. She didn't want to go for walks. I'd put her in the carrier. She would just scream. Like, it was terrible. She was never comfortable. And we had an amazing postpartum doula who finally suggested, she really tried to help me breastfeed too. And we were pumping around the clock too. And that's a whole other thing. And
wait, on top of the breastfeeding around the clock with a colicky baby and pumping all through the night, on top of a birth that you weren't expecting and a baby in the NICU and a postpartum hemorrhage and a possible blood transfusion and healing from a cesarean delivery.
Yes, so we have all of this going on, and I'm trying to figure out how to feed this baby. So we had this amazing postpartum doula.
Shout out to postpartum doulas.
Yes,
she's amazing. Thank you for the work you do.
She wanted to help me try to breastfeed because that's what I thought I wanted to do, right? But she very gently suggested at one point, like, maybe we should try formula and see if it makes a difference. So we tried 1, didn't make a difference. We tried 2, it didn't make a difference. And I started to go, it's not the formula.
Yeah.
But then she said, okay, they have some specialty formulas from Europe
yeah.
that are not...
They're not FDA approved here.
Yes, they're not FDA approved here. And we had to go, like, find a vendor for one of them, drive to Sherman Oaks,
in the middle of a riot.
Yes, trying to find these specific, really specific, like, subtypes within these specialty formulas.
That are also very expensive.
Oh, yeah, it was maybe $40 for a canister. Ooh. And you go through them fast.
Oh, yeah. Babies
so it was either the 4th or 5th formula we tried. And I, at this point, was like, it's the formula thing. It's not.
You were losing hope. Yeah.
Yes. I was like, it's not the formula. But finally, she took a formula and she stopped crying. She just magically stopped crying.
Wow.
And that was the end of the colic.
Was it a special formulation? Was it like non-dairy?
It was something like the proteins were already partially
digested
yes.
or broken down?
Yes, I could find it.
Yeah, just I think for our listeners.
Our doctor ended up saying she thinks she couldn't tolerate breast milk for whatever reason. But the big learning lesson for me was I had let all of this societal pressure like imbue me at that point. And I thought that the only way was to breastfeed. And that is what was causing and prolonging the colic. So it stopped.
It's that vicious cycle. It can happen anywhere to any parent.
And we did everything. I tried pumping and just giving her bottles. And the postpartum doula would say, if your stress is too high, let your husband feed her with a bottle. We also thought, okay, maybe when she develops a little bit more, she'll be able to have breast milk. So that I continued pumping around the clock, wow. I tell you. And I luckily had a really good supply. But our entire freezer became full of breast milk. And she never had it again. And you know, my second baby had the same problem. She would throw up when she had breast milk.
There are babies for whom breast milk is not the right choice.
Well, we realized so quickly with baby number 2, we're not doing this again.
Yep.
And we tried a different formula, just one that we guessed would work for her. It worked. And she did formula as well. And I have no regrets at all. Absolutely. Formula is what both of my children needed. Yeah. And, you know, I wish I had a little bit more faith in myself and my gut instincts before this all happened, because I was so afraid of what I didn't know that I was letting other people dictate how I should be taking care of my own baby.
Yeah, and I think that's the good and bad of all of this childbirth and lactation education and seeking experts to help with this phase. Yes, we are experts, we've read books, we've got experiences, but one of my favorite things to do, honestly, is to tell that parent to take a breath, take a minute, take a beat, and tune in to what they are feeling. What are you feeling, and what are you feeling from your baby? Because we get an intuition that can be very easily overridden by the experts around us.
Yeah.
The mother who has 5 kids, the NICU nurse,
yeah.
the postpartum doula, the doctor, whoever it may be who is not. And there are many experts in our field now. There's a lot of experts in this perinatal period. But when the person who's raising the baby loses intuition of what this baby needs, that disconnect can actually be more detrimental than actually what's going on. And it's the good and the bad of seeking expert help. It's like, yes, seek the help, but then take a minute and be like, and with the lactation consult, it came to you very quickly.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, no. But other times it's so hard to trust yourself as a new mom. And also you still had that voice from that practitioner who told you that you hurt your baby, which lingers, even though you may not cognitively believe it.
It still bothers me. It's been 5.5 years. And I ended up having extreme postpartum anxiety and depression that came out of all of this. And we ended up getting a full-time nanny when Lennon was about 6 months old. And I was taking time off of work then. And I just got into bed.
You were done.
I was done. And you'd think that would have happened like after 3 weeks. No, it was like 6 months, 9 months. And I was
burned out.
I was depressed. The way I described it was I didn't want to be dead, but I didn't want to be alive. I didn't want to be up. I didn't want to be down. I didn't want to be left. I didn't want to be right. I just didn't want to be anything. And I had a couple health practitioners randomly in the same week asked me if I'd ever considered ketamine therapy. And I said, no, that sounds scary. I'm not doing that. Mm-hmm. But after the third one said, I really strongly suggest you do this, I went and I did a series of 6 IV infusions.
Tell us what ketamine therapy is.
there's several ways to get it into your body, but it's a beautiful, in my experience, antidepressant. So you can either get it through an IV, you can get it through an intramuscular shot, or there is a nasal spray that some insurances will cover. I was told that the best bang for your buck and the fastest way to get it into your system was IV. So I went, and it's a lot of work over the course of 2 weeks, 2 to maybe 3 weeks. You have to go 6 times, and it's taxing. It's a journey, right? And I was devastated because after 6 infusions, I didn't feel better.
Oh no.
So I called the CEO of the company, and he said, dude, just 2 more, please. And I thought, all right, that's another $1,200, but okay. And I did 2 more, and I woke up the next morning after the last one, and it was so bizarre because it was like
the sun started to shine.
I wanted to hear music. I hadn't listened to music for so long because I was just depressed. I wanted to talk to people. I wanted to go downstairs and talk to people. I think it was Easter, and I was like, I want to participate, and I wanted to be a part of my own life again. And I felt like, is this what normal people feel like? Like, is this, because I've struggled with depression and anxiety for many years. So I thought, if this is what it's like to be normal, like, this is crazy. So I've kept up with it as much as I can.
How often do you need to go now?
Well, I haven't been in over a year. I used to go every 2 months, and I went every 3 months. They will sometimes prescribe lozenges so you can keep the medication in your system. Mm-hmm. So I have those for that purpose.
For maintenance.
Mm-hmm. And I need to get back in for, they call them boosters, where you go do 2. But I haven't been able to do it for a while. But I think that had a more profound effect on me than 21 psychiatric drugs that I tried that had failed.
Jen.
Yeah. And I had a doctor tell me the most resistant depression he's ever seen. I tried TMS, transcranial magnetic stimulation, and it didn't work. And it has a really high success rate. So I tried so many things, and finally that worked. And people ask me about it a lot, and I always say it is expensive. If you can do it, I 100% recommend it to anyone blind. Like, hands down, I would recommend IV the way that I did it. But yeah, I feel like things finally started to get better after that. Like, I was able to be more present with Lennon.
And how do you feel after you do the treatment? Can you drive? Can you function normally? Or do you need to drive with help home?
You can't drive for the rest of the day.
Okay.
I think they say 24 hours, or maybe it's the rest of the day. So I always just would Uber there and Uber home to make it easy on everyone. But it really is kind of like you go into like a dream, but you're aware at the same time. And I always knew I was in a doctor's office. I was terrified to try this. I was like, I don't do that stuff. Like, I don't. But it was so peaceful for me. It's every time I do it, it's the most peaceful feeling in the world for me. I know that it is not that way for every single person, but for me, it was extremely peaceful. I really can't say enough good things about it, but that was another, the psychiatrist, the therapy, the ketamine. It took a lot to get me back.
You were doing all of that as you were doing. You weren't just doing the ketamine. You were still in therapy. Yeah. Also, just to be clear for the listeners, it's not just a one tool kind of situation.
No.
The therapy portion is important.
I still see Dr. Sprago, even though I'm not pregnant and not really postpartum, but he's just such a lovely man, and he really cares about his patients. And so I stayed on with him. But yeah, I was in therapy for months after and I also joined a mommy and me group, and it's interesting, like, how many of the other girls in there had somewhat of a traumatic birth?
So much. I talk so much about, I wish we could separate the word trauma from birth, at least not in the same sentence. And at least it could be like a little tiny trauma instead of like a big T trauma that took years to recover from.
Yeah.
And I think so much of it is the system, and so much of it is not being prepared. And I think birth is naturally traumatic to your system because a human comes out of you, and then an organ comes out of you, whether abdominally or vaginally, period. And then typically people are then responsible for raising this human. So yes, there is some trauma involved. But if we could take all the adjunct trauma that is preventable, I think the earth would be a better place.
Yeah, I agree.
What would you do differently? I know you did some things differently with your second birth, but if you were talking to your best friend about having their first baby, what would you tell them?
That's a great. Well, I always do say to people, I know you might have a birth plan or a picture of how you see this going. You have to let go of that a little bit, because as my doctor said to me, the baby's going to come however she wants to come. She's going to come. And I still remember her saying that, and I still had my birth plan. Yeah. And so I just said, I hope it's wonderful, but just don't get too married to it happening one way, because you have no control over it. And I think, well, this one's kind of silly, but I would have asked for the epidural earlier.
Sooner.
An hour sooner.
Yeah. Because not only do you have to get the anesthesiologist in the room, you then need an IV bolus to get your blood volume up, to get your volume up in your body. So that can take time. So I always tell people, especially people who like when they're done, they are done. And they're like, I need it now. I'm like, okay, well, you've asked for it. We're going to have to continue to use the tools that we have been using for another hour. So hang in there with me. But yes, if you are prepared for it a little sooner, I think it would be helpful.
Yeah. Just know it's probably going to take an hour, and if you want an epidural, you're not wanting to feel the pain that's going to be coming, And also you're in a big city, major medical facility. Yeah. There are places in the United States that if you want an epidural, they have to call the anesthesiologist to get in their car and come to the hospital to give you your epidural. So Cedars-Sinai is a big institution. So it's got anesthesiologists that are on all the time, and hospitalist OBs that are on 24/7. But we're in a big city. In other places, even OBs are not routinely at the hospital. You have to call them, get them out of bed to come do what they have to do. So yes, it can take time, for sure. Really, what I would have done differently is when we got home, I would have trusted my own intuition, because I think I knew something was not working with the breastfeeding. I think I would have maybe stayed off the internet a little bit more. And not to be silly, but I think I would have tried to stay in that sweet sort of like cocoon of channeling my own mom, who's very different than me. She's easy breezy. She's positive. I mean, she's a realist too, but she just doesn't worry if she doesn't.
The Worrier gene comes from somewhere else.
I don't.
It's not from mama.
I don't know where it's from, but yeah, she just, I think I lost that like protective blanketing that
coating.
That I'd put over myself that got me through that pregnancy. Yeah. Truly. I think I would have tried to stay, because what happened was, let me clarify one more thing with my mom. I did not read while I was pregnant. I didn't read, this is what symptom you should be having at this week. And old me, any other me would have done that all day long. I would have read 6 sources of what should be happening on this day, in this trimester. I didn't do it because I knew I couldn't handle it, and I channeled my mom. And
I love that.
When we got home from the hospital is when I started Googling absolutely everything, and formula and breastfeeding and this and that and colic, and I got information overload, but it was all negative feedback. And so that's why I think I wish I would have kept, my mom's energy around me a little bit more, and known that I couldn't handle all of what's on the internet about these things that are worrying me, because it's like, I was really just looking for confirmation bias of things. I wasn't,
For sure.
nothing
For
was
sure.
making me feel better.
In a vulnerable state. I mean, as it is, as a non-pregnant person, anything that you Google after 6 p.m., it's not going to be good. We all end up with, God forbid, illnesses, and our kids are, have this and have that, and our marriages and relationships need this, that, and the other. Nothing good happens on the internet when our reserves and our vulnerability goes up at night. In a postpartum person are some of the most vulnerable people on the planet.
Yeah.
Because that hormonal shift makes you so prone to becoming a sponge and then spinning. And if you're prone to any sort of anxiety, which is sisters with OCD, which is, cousins with perfectionism, all of those things sort of create this perfect cycle. And then you're not sleeping.
Yeah.
And then you're Googling all the things that are bad and wrong and you should be doing different. So it's a vicious cycle. I usually joke with my clients that after you have your baby, I will come and snip the wires on your internet. So you're not going to be able to access anything. You should. You'll be able to call one person, and that will be one person that you trust, and you will have one book that I will give you that will be a hardcover on your living room table. That's it. No more experts. Yep. Because it's a learning curve. And what we've lost is the units where mothers and grandmothers and aunts and mother-in-laws and sister-in-laws, they all lived in the same house, which can make you crazy, but they saw the learned behavior. Yep. They were able to help each other and be like, Jen, you know what? I had a kid who didn't like my breast milk. Try this.
Yeah.
Or give me that baby and you go sleep.
Yep.
There are stories of mothers going to bed and their aunts or cousins or nieces taking care of the babies until the mom felt better.
Yep.
And in that 40-day period, that 6-week period where we really need to be enveloped with love and nutrition and rest and trust, where you were thrown back into, a house with you and your husband with a colicky baby and a pandemic, which isn't great. But in the best of circumstances, we're so isolated from the wisdom of our elders.
Totally.
It's gone.
Totally.
And it's such a disservice to our women.
Yeah. And my mom has said, I don't know what to do with you guys because it is so different than when we were raising you. She's like, when you cried, I gave you a bottle. Yeah. Because not this every third hour, it was like if we cried, we gave you a bottle. And it seemed so simple for them. Like they just did what they thought they should do. And with us, we're all on our phones
Googling the experts and the social media person who we don't know what happened 2 minutes before or 2 minutes after that taping of what that social media expert influence is posting, and it's detrimental. It's not real. It's not real. And postpartum, it's hard. It's not necessarily rainbows and unicorns. Yes, you have this beautiful baby typically in most scenarios that comes home with you and you're taking care of, but it's one of the biggest learning curves that we're ever thrown into.
The craziest learning curve.
It is.
And I tell people that too. Like, just you will get it. You'll hit your stride. And then when you have a second, give it a minute. You'll hit your stride then too. But it is,
It takes time. It takes time for sure. I actually just want to congratulate you. You're coming up on 15 years of sobriety and life without a drink.
Yes.
Which is huge. And one day at a time and a journey for sure. Was there any thoughts of taking a drink or using in that time, in that very difficult postpartum period and the period right after with the depression?
The crazy thing about me is that I was such a bad alcoholic. I was so close to death when I was in my early 20s from it. I was in the early stages of cirrhosis.
Wow.
Yes, like in the hospital. And I truly believe wholeheartedly that if I take one drink that I will die. So I am not tempted by that at all. There is, I think, still some concern around things like after a C-section, you have to have painkillers.
Yeah.
I think I would have worried about myself, but the pain, I think, was so serious that I didn't I didn't think about taking more than I was prescribed because I needed it to work. I didn't necessarily feel like I was at risk of relapsing, but you never know. You know, it was still like having to manage my own like painkiller situation. Like I had to really go, this is, you get one at however many hours.
Yeah. Not more than that. More than that. Is there ketamine withdrawal? Like if it's not in your system?
No.
Okay.
What happens though is that the benefits of it sort of
dwindle down.
Yeah.
So it probably gets
off.
Metabolized and then leaves your body, which is why the lozenges probably keep it up at a certain level.
Yes, but they really recommend the boosters over those. I just haven't been able to keep up with them like I used to.
Yeah, life is lifing. Yeah. Your husband sounds incredible.
He is.
He sounds like he was a rock during this time, and I'm sure that if we bring him on the podcast, he would share the incredible fear and I'm assuming panic and worry that he had when he couldn't see his baby girl and couldn't see his wife for all those hours. How has your relationship been since the babies?
We're great. The good thing about us is that we agree on almost everything. We don't have different ideas about how most things should be done. So I think, we're very harmonious in that way. And because of that, we have a really beautiful partnership. And we make sure that these girls are taken care of. And sometimes, like in the morning when they're both up getting ready, or separate bath times, someone's in the shower bath at night, whatever, like it really is like man on man. Yeah, it's never like you go to figure it out upstairs. It's like we do pretty much everything together. And the girls are really happy. And that's really all I can ask for. My just turned 3-year-old has dealt with some milestone delays. She's been in therapy since she was 8 months old, but she's doing so well. She's done with all of her therapy except speech and occupational. Amazing. And so she's just a joy. And both of them are, they don't look related at all.
And
it's hilarious.
So cute. I saw their pictures. They are incredible.
Yeah, they're adorable. Yeah. So they're happy, and it's hard. Yeah. It's hard having 2 kids and trying to have a life outside of it without full-time care, because we don't have full-time care. We have help, but it's not full-time. So we also have to know when someone needs, a couple hours here, and then I'll take a couple hours here.
A mental health break.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Was he worried about you during this time when you were going through the depression? I can imagine.
Yes, I think he didn't know what to do. Yeah. I don't think anyone knew what to do, because it was awkward because the baby was taken care of. So he wasn't in there like, get out of bed, like you have to do this, because once the baby was taken care of, I was like, great,
I'm out.
I'm done. Yeah. Yeah. But, I feel very fortunate that I was able to work my way out of that. So, yeah, he's a great dad. My kids love him. And yeah, I think we're really lucky.
I love it. That's such a blessing. I know that you and I just talked briefly before the interview. You had questions about midwifery, about stuff that you didn't know about what we do.
Okay. My biggest one is, what do you do if you are at a situation and you're at someone's house doing a home birth and it turns into an emergency? What happens?
Different types of emergencies, right? So a hemorrhage is an emergency. And so we carry 4 or 5 different medications with us to manage hemorrhage. We all have IV skills. So we get the IVs going and start a fluid run, and then add whatever medications we need to, whether it's intramuscular or it's a suppository or it's in the IV. Sometimes babies get stuck. There are shoulder dystocias that happen, which is one of the things we never, ever, ever want to see.
Yeah.
Please, God, I just don't want to see that again. And we have a lot of maneuvers that we can do, a lot of training that we have in how to get the babies out. Is it pleasant? No. Can it be scary? Absolutely. But I think part of what keeps midwifery in the out-of-hospital setting or community setting safe is that our clients are very, very low risk going in. So we cannot take as clients within our scope of practice anyone who is higher risk. So,
Okay.
As a licensed midwife in California, we cannot take twins or breeches or people with hypertension, insulin-dependent diabetes, anything that is going to need the collaboration of a doctor who tells us, no, community birth is not a good idea. We cannot take. Within that, there are emergencies that we can handle, and we can handle them successfully, and we can stay home because mom and baby are great. One of our worst shoulder dystocias that we had, once the EMTs got there, the baby was out and the baby was great. Wow. So we were able to send them home. Same with hemorrhage. We call 911, but we manage it. And once 911 comes, they're like, hey, y'all, you're good? And we're like, we're good. And they go home. That is the best case scenario. Once in a while, we need a trip to the hospital. And it's non-emergent, but it's because things aren't looking great. Like, you know what? This is now going in a way that we don't want to be home any further. We don't need an ambulance, but we need to go. And we get in the car and we go. We call collaborating physicians. We give a report to the hospital and we show up. Sometimes it's a true emergency. And so you call 911 and it is a situation where you got to get in the ambulance and go. And part of our job is to give that anticipatory guidance to our clients. Like, what does an emergency look like? I know you hate hospitals. Yeah. I know you don't want a doctor. I know that you want to be at home. Plan A, like you talked about. But if we were to hold that loosely and talk for a minute about, there's a 10 to 20% chance you might need a transfer, not an emergency transfer, but what is that going to do to your psyche?
Yeah.
I've had people say, whoa, I never thought about it that way. No, I think I want to start in the hospital because the thought of transferring to a hospital is actually worse for me.
Because you can do your work in a hospital, right?
I cannot. So once we go to the hospital, I transfer care to another midwife who has hospital privileges, or to the hospitalist or the OB that I collaborate with.
Okay.
So there are people that I still go. And actually, once I get onto an ambulance, I'm the most skilled person on the ambulance when it comes to obstetrics. Yeah. They're a quick ride and maybe an IV, which we've already probably started. But they're like, yeah, please come. You're going to manage this until we roll in. And the client obviously wants to have us there. So the continuity of care is really important, which we didn't have during COVID. During COVID, we literally had to drop them off and go home and be like, are they okay? Are they not?
Heartbreaking.
It was awful. Thank God it didn't happen much, but it can happen. So to answer your question, low risk setting, collaboration, expertise on handling emergencies to the extent that we can, and clients who know that sometimes we have to call EMS, and that is out of our hands. Okay. We have no control over birth.
And then, my other main question is, what percentage of people who you're going into this, like, and it's their first child, start regretting no epidural?
Very few.
Really?
Very, very few. Yeah, which is always, it's a fascinating social experiment. Like, what, are those women stronger? No, I think it's because they've already framed it in a way that they are going to have to dig real deep because this is what they want. And so a lot of them have trained with hypnobirthing or hypnobabies, or have brought their doula, or have done all sorts of like inner work, inner trauma work too, not just breathe in, breathe out, but that deep internal shift that is going to happen. They are committed to it.
That's
so
fascinating.
Typically they don't. We start getting a lot of 4-letter words when it gets to that 8 to 10 centimeter mark. Like, why did I choose this? And I can't do this. And then we have a baby, right? We always have a baby as soon as they start saying that. But I will say, if you have an unusual labor where you are laboring for hours and days and you're getting fatigued, then sometimes as the midwives, we're like, you need an epidural.
Yeah.
Your body needs a break. And often the epidural is what is the difference between having a successful vaginal delivery and needing a cesarean section, because the mom is too exhausted. So sometimes an epidural is a beautiful tool. It's the perfect tool to pull out. But I don't believe in the rhetoric of you can't do it without an epidural.
Right.
It's not true for everybody.
Right.
So I actually don't like blanket statements at all. You need
Wow.
formula, you don't need formula. You should breastfeed, you shouldn't breastfeed. We're so individual. How can anyone make a
Totally.
blanket statement? It's damaging.
100%.
It's that, or home birth is dangerous. Is it? What do you even know about it? Most people don't even know what a midwife does, right? They think like we show up with a couple of cauldrons and some
instruments,
brews and, things that we use. But
yeah.
we're medical providers and we have a lot of skills and a lot of wisdom and a lot of rapport with the client.
Yeah.
So that one-on-one that you had with your nurse, we have that for 9 months and the delivery and the postpartum period.
Yeah.
Which actually make things better.
Loved that.
Yeah. So we don't transfer for epidurals much.
Wow. I actually was not expecting that.
Yeah. And that's actually a question for the client is, you're telling me you want an unmedicated birth. Tell me why.
Yeah.
Well, it looks kind of cool. My breast friend, it's got to be for you.
Yeah.
Like, what is your why?
Yep.
And so when people are dedicated to their own why, they make it happen.
Wow.
Yeah. And as midwives, we can even do your care and still collaborate with the doctor. So you can have midwifery care, but deliver with a doctor in a hospital and come right back to midwifery care.
Yeah.
So there's that like wraparound care that we provide too, which a lot of people don't know about.
Yep.
So I love that you're asking those questions. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your grace. Thank you for being you. I'm just so moved, and I hope you write the book. I think you're one of the best writers. I keep telling you, but I'm so moved by your writing.
You're inspiring me to just pick back up and
Please.
do it. It's the like editing paralysis that gets me.
I get it. Some of the best works come after paralysis, though.
Yeah, and it's like a lot of the time it's just like it doesn't have to be perfect. Just
there's no such thing as perfect, right? Perfect is an illusion, and I think just this podcast can help so many, and your story is incredible on so many levels, from the pregnancy to the delivery to the postpartum period to all the facets of it. Thank you for your time, and I hope you come back. I'm inviting you back already.
No,
for another episode.
For even thinking of me. It's incredible. It's
absolutely
it's awesome. No, I'm so happy. I'm so happy I was able to do this. I will come back.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to the Mamatoosa podcast on the Industry Plant Podcast Network. Mamatoosa is hosted by me, Atoosa Benji, and produced by Josh Stretton Carlson. Our theme music is composed by Mary Lalazarian. If you enjoyed the podcast, please consider leaving us a review and subscribing. See you next Tuesday.